When I was in Gaza in February this year, I was working at 2 primary care clinics in Rafah, both of which barely had enough medications and supplies to appropriately treat patients. When we arrived, there were no antibiotics. This means no life and limb-saving treatment for patients with bacterial infections. We saw multiple cases of suspected rickets disease. This is severe vitamin D deficiency due to malnutrition affecting bone growth. There are patients that could walk before and were no longer walking. There are patients that should have been walking due to their developmental milestones, but were not walking due to severe malnutrition. One of the acutely malnourished children I saw was the sickest child that I've ever seen in my entire medical career and training in the clinic. They were 9 to 10 years old, being carried in by his mother, unable to walk. I could wrap my entire index finger and thumb around their upper arm and lower leg. They had not been eating for 4 days due to nausea and vomiting and were also showing neurological signs of decline. If I had seen this patient in Canada, they would have been immediately admitted to a pediatric hospital for care and refeeding, and possibly even to the pediatric intensive care unit for monitoring. However, it broke my heart after speaking to the local doctor that all we could provide would be IV fluid hydration. This is what we were essentially giving every child that appeared malnourished, dehydrated, or ill in the clinic. These necessary conditions for life, food, clean water, shelter, especially for young children, were withheld intentionally to make the conditions in Gaza entirely unimaginably unlivable and unsurvivable for everyone, but acutely impact those that are most vulnerable: newborns, young children, people who are pregnant, older adults, people with chronic diseases and disabilities, and mental health conditions. The first case of polio in 25 years in Gaza in a 10-month-old child now has developed paralysis in the lower extremities. This is irreversible paralysis. This is genocide by weaponizing previously eliminated, highly infectious diseases to cause permanent disability and death. I am an eyewitness to genocide in Gaza. Israel is committing genocide. While our leaders remain impotent to act in any meaningful way, we demand an immediate lifting of the blockade of humanitarian aid, an immediate two-way arms embargo, compliance with the decisions of the International Court of Justice. This must be immediate. The children of Gaza depend on it. Justin Trudeau, Melanie Joly, your inaction is complicity in genocide. Canadian Medical Association, your silence is manufactured consent for genocide.
Genocide. Noun. The systematic killing of substantial numbers of people on the basis of their ethnicity, religion, political beliefs, social status, or other particularities. Genocide. Verb. To commit genocide against, to eliminate, a group of people completely.
That these facilities never in fact contained hydrogen cyanide gas.
What aside from the samples convinced you that these facilities could not have been used then or now as execution facilities?
The samples in my mind were mainly corroborative. The reasons that I determined that these facilities were not or never could have been gas execution facilities are stated in my report. And it mainly is concerned with the design and fabrication of these facilities. The requirements necessary in the design of a facility that contains a highly explosive and highly poisonous gas. You must have gasketed doors, no windows, means of getting the gas in, means of getting the gas out, something for heating the gas and the air to constantly keep the right temperature, explosion-proof switches, lighting facilities, etc. None of these ever existed. We're talking about brick and mortar buildings without heat, with non-explosion proof lighting, without gasketed doors, in some cases without doors at all, and with crematories that opened very close or adjacent to the facility. If these facilities were used for gas execution facilities, if those persons operating the facilities didn't gas themselves to death at the same time that the executees died, they certainly would have been blown to bits when the gas exploded from a spark arc in a switch, the heat of a light bulb, or the gas approaching and getting into the crematory furnace. I mean, it's just ludicrous to consider that these facilities could have been used as gas chambers.
As to the origin of the present Jews in Palestine, he states that those Jews derived from Eastern Europe. And many, many of the Jews that today live in the reconstituted state of Israel come from Eastern Europe, are not descendants of the Judeans or the lost tribes of Israel, but rather descendants of the Khazars. Who are they? They were a nation most people do not even know of. He writes, the so-called self-styled Jews in Eastern Europe in modern history cannot legitimately point to a single ancient ancestor who ever set even a foot on the soil of Palestine in the era of Bible history. Research also revealed that the so-called or self-styled Jews in Eastern Europe were never Semites, are not Semites now, nor can they ever be regarded as Semites at any future time by any stretch of the imagination. What secret, mysterious power has been able for countless generations to keep the origin and the history of the Khazars and the Khazar kingdom out of the history textbooks? Did you ever learn about it at school? I never learned about it. And out of classroom courses in history throughout the world, the origin and the history of Khazars and the Khazar kingdom are certainly incontestable historical facts.
Ceasefire now! Save the children of Gaza!
We're standing up for our interests and values, not shrinking back. Not in the face of Russia's aggression against Ukraine. Not in the face of an intensifying strategic competition in the Indo-Pacific and around the world.
If the witness will suspend, and I ask that everyone again respect this hearing, we will suspend until the room is cleared.
Is calling for a ceasefire. Shame on you all.
Our diplomacy, our development must work hand in hand.
Committee will suspend, and again, I appreciate that people feel passionately about these issues. I would ask that you respect our witnesses and our committee members and allow the American people to hear their testimony.
Come on, I'm an Army colonel, I'm a former diplomat, I resigned on that war in Iraq that you talked about. That was a terrible thing, and what we're